Hello, I'm going to be doing the installation of Windows 2016 server. So I'm going to install it on my VMware Workstation 12. So I'm going to try and do this recording. I've already attached my ISO server 2016 there as a disk. And I have my product key copied somewhere here. Most of you will not need to enter your product key because you're going to be using the evaluation copy. In my case, I have a full version, so I'm going to be copying that version here. I'm going to use admin as my username, and I'm going to set the password here. I'm going to log in automatically initially here, and I'm going to call this DC just to make it easier for me to work with it. I'm going to make this video call, and I'm going to leave the default memory settings there. I want to put this machine on a host network only, just like I've done in the class. I'm going to store my hard drive only here, and I'm going to go here. I'm going to configure my hardware because I want to make sure that I specifically put this one in VMnet 5. That is the environment that I've already pre-configured. So I'm going to go finish, and then that's going to start my Windows Server installation. I'm going to try and quickly show you what I have configured here on the network editor. So if I bring the editor here, you can see VMnet 5, and I've already set it for 192.168.50, and I have already unchecked this box, so there's no DHCP server on this network. I just want to quickly show you that. I think that's very important for you to get all these facts, ahead of time, before we go too deep. So you want to select the desktop experience. I've made this mistake before. I select the data center, unlike what you have in the 2012 installation. This does not give you a core option, but essentially the same thing as core. So you want to select the desktop experience if you want to have a GUI, as a component. So and then my installation is going to start. I'll wait for these Windows files to be copied and installation to be set up, and then we're going to come back and do the configuration. So it's about 13%, 14% now, 15%, 17%. It goes by rather quickly. Sometimes it depends on the type of hard drives that you're installing this from. So mine is on solid state, so I might have a relatively faster speed compared to what you are going to experience in your own environment. And I think it's copying all my installation now. All the features are already installed, so it's going on to install all the updates. I have paused the video to reduce the amount of time for this recording, so yours may not go this fast, but this will give you a pretty good idea of what you should expect during your installation. So this is my first restart of the Windows. Ultimately, my goal is to proceed after this session to go and install Active Directory on it. After that, I'm going to promote the Active Directory, set up DNS to be automatically installed. After that, I'm going to go ahead and install DHCP server on this system. I wanted to know that you might experience multiple reboots of your virtual machine during the installation. That is totally normal. I have tried to minimize the amount of area that I'm recording during this session to save time, but it's totally normal for you to go through almost 3 or 4 reboot before your installation is finally complete. As you can see now, I have completed the installation of my Windows 2016 server. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and install server. I'm going to go over to this dashboard and proceed to install Active Directory, as I've mentioned earlier, and then that will give me the ability to promote this server to a domain controller. Without the installation of Active Directory, then I will not be able to promote this machine to a domain controller. So the best place to do this, and let this our VMware tools proceed. With the VMware tools, it allows mouse and keyboard and video VGA driver compatibility with your desktop, enhance your keyboard usage between the virtual machine and the host. You can copy files back and forth. It's a very, very important part of the process. So I would strongly encourage you, don't be in a hurry, let this thing go through. That's very, very important. It's going to make your life a lot easier down the road. Before I proceed, I am going to configure this machine to use a static IP address, because I am going to be using it as my domain controller. So don't forget that this machine is on VMnet 5, and VMnet 5, the network address here, if you look at it, is 192.168.55.0. So I want to make sure that the static IP address I'm going to configure here, it's within that range. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say 192.168.55, and I'm just going to call this 5 and take the default. And here I'm going to make this machine to be my DNS server, and I'm sure you know why. I explained to you in class. The reason why you want to do that is because we're going to be creating a domain name for this domain controller, and we need a DNS on the network to do that. Right now I'm going to say don't worry about this default gateway for now. We will deal with that later when we get there. So I've given this guy a static IP address. It's easy to verify that, but right now we're just going to let that go. Before I go any further, I like to change my computer name, from this name that may not be too friendly, to something that will make sense to me a little bit later on. So I'm going to call this DC. I'm going to click OK, and this machine is going to restart. This is totally optional, giving it a name that you feel comfortable. But if I'm going to be entering this name later on during the command line mode and everything, I want a name that is relatively easier to type. Again, this is a matter of convenience or preference. You do not have to do that if you don't want to do that. But in my case, I really do prefer to have it done. So the choice is yours. You can do whatever you want. So having done that, I'm going to come over here and try and install Active Directory here, so you can see. And I'm going to go to next, go to next, go to next, and I'm going to select Active Directory Domain Services, select the hard features, and it's going to install just one of 12 of the file and storage services. It's by default, so accept it, and I'm going to go to install. And this process is going to start the installation of my Active Directory, after which I'm going to have the option to go ahead and configure and promote this machine to be a domain controller. So you can see here now the installation here is complete. I am going to click close. I have this option now. I can go ahead and promote this machine to be a domain controller. Since this is the first machine in my domain, I'm going to select add a new forest, and I have a choice. I can call this perkins.org, go to next here. And you can see it's already installing DNS because this is the first machine on the network, and we need the DNS to specify for the domain name that we specify. Perkins.org is a domain name, and so we need a DNS server. And because this guy could not find any DNS server, it's automatically installing DNS server on itself. So I'm going to specify my password here. As I mentioned in class, select something real simple. Don't make it too complicated. So go to next here, and the first name of your domain name is going to be your NetBIOS. In this case, it's going to be Perkins. I'm going to go ahead and do this and go to next. And once this is configured, I'm going to just select next, go to next. I'm going to have an error here, and it's simply because of the account that I have here. Over here you cannot have a user account with a blank password, and you can see my administrator here is a blank password. So I'm going to go ahead and specify create a password. Now I can go back to previous and go to next now, and this should work as you would expect. And I go to install here, and it's going to start the installation of configuration of my Active Directory. And at the end of these exercises, I would essentially have installed a functioning 2016 domain controller. As you can see, the installation is done. It's about to sign out. You're going to see this. So you click close. This machine is going to now restart itself. So once this process is done, I'm going to log into the domain for the first time. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and install DHCP server on the same domain controller. It is noteworthy to know that in a production environment, you will not install DHCP on the same machine that you are installing your domain controller because, of course, inherent flaws. Otherwise, this should be just fine and great. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so it has already restarted now. One of the things I want you to always look for, especially when you are looking at your installation, is to take a look at this. Make sure this is green and this is green. That's what I care about right now. Don't worry about the red for the local server and your servers here. We don't have anything to do with that at this point yet. So what I've got now is I have a domain controller, and I also have my DNS server. I usually want to make sure that I'm actually logging on to my domain controller, however, especially after my installation. So we'll try and see if I can sign out here. And here I'm going to try and sign back in. And this is Perkins, but now I'm going to sign in as another user. I'm going to sign in as an administrator. And over here. And then I will go over here. Sorry. I think so I'll come over here and do this. So as you can see, that's ADDS. So I'm going to go ahead and install DHCP. I will not do this now. I'm going to go ahead and install DHCP here. And that's DHCP. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want this machine, this domain controller, to also be able to hand out IP address to other machine that's going to be on this network. So that's why you see this effort to install DHCP server. Essentially what the DHCP server allows us to do is allow this machine to automatically hand out IP address to any other machine that's on this network. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want every machine on this network to get certain information that, you know, the DHCP is going to help me propagate within this network. So here I need to go and configure the DHCP that we just installed, and I'm going to use the administrator account. I'm going to commit, and that is done. Having done that, there's few more stuff for us to do. Select the DHCP, and here I'm going to just go ahead and specify the scope. The scope is just the range of IP address that I want, you know, to set up, you know, in this environment. So configure the options. You don't have to worry about these really. You're gonna have plenty of other stuff to do. So I'm going to go ahead and new scope. I'm going to call this scope Metro. So go to next, and then I'm going to specify what's going to be my range of IP address that I want this machine to hand out. Note that these have to fall within the network range that this machine is located, so that's very important. Here I can just say 200. That's still good. You cannot have more than 254. I hope you know that. And I don't need a default gateway right now. This machine is already seen that I had DNS installed on this domain controller, so it's already picked that. And all those information will be automatically forwarded by my DHCP server. So now I have an active scope. I can look at leases. I don't have any machine leasing anything. So, and as I've shown you guys earlier in the class, I already have Windows 2000 and another 2016 that I'd already installed on a different location. Let me see if I can still find it. So I call it CA in the class. So if I double click this, so, and they are all in the same network environment, BMNet 5. If I click this right now, I'm going to power this guy off, and normally I expect this guy to try to request IP address from this DHCP server, and eventually when it does, you're going to realize that there'll be some, IP address here that's going to show that we have a machine that I've just requested, IP address from this, this box. So I'm going to let this thing start a little bit, and I have two network cards. Both of them are actually deployed in that same environment. BMNet 5 over here. I'm going to make sure that I drop it in here. Make sure that this guy is in the network environment where it could get the appropriate name. And normally once that is done, I can see now, okay, it's already picked up IP address from the DHCP server, because I've got two network cards on these machines. They already picked that IP address up. You can see that. Okay, and this is the machine that I use for my our RAID configuration in the class. One of that stuff I'm going to show you guys here. You can see all these disks right now. These are striping, these are mirror, these are simple, this is spanning. Pretty straightforward stuff. I'm going to eventually install my certificate authority on this machine later on, But right now there's something I want to quickly do, and you will notice that the name of this machine is still reflecting the generic name. I kind of like my machine name to reflect the name that I want them to maintain, or in terms of their functionality. It makes it easier for me to spot them. So I'm going to change the name to CA, and I will encourage you to do the same thing throughout your lab. So it's going to need to restart. I'm going to say go ahead and restart now. So you'll see, so this is my domain controller to the left, and I have my certificate authority. Well, what is going to be my certificate authority, I have not installed certificate authority on this machine yet, but I will, in my subsequent video recording. I'm going to do that. So you can see this machine here. So it's a regular machine. It's got an IP address. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the local server. I'm going to select this machine, so I'm going to work group here, and I'm going to change that to the domain. And my domain name is perkins.org. I'm going to press enter. You can see that this machine is able to connect. If you get error message at this point, you know what, if you do not have a dialog box here, make sure that this CA here is getting his IP address from this guy as his DHCP. That's why I set up DHCP first before bringing this machine online. So I'm going to type administrator, and that's the administrator for the domain controller, and I'm going to enter my IP address. So this is the administrator account for this domain controller that we installed earlier. So when I click OK now, see, welcome to perkins.org domain. So this machine has just joined the domain now. It's going to need to restart. I'm going to restart now, but also if you look at if I bring up my Active Directory users and computers, this is where I can see most of the components in my Active Directory that I install. You can see I have CA now. It's already joined this domain, and the lab I've just demonstrated to you right now is just to show you how to install domain controller, how to install DHCP server, how to configure DHCP server on your machine, and finally how to configure a server to join the domain. I can actually even come over here and create a user account here. Go to users here, and I can call this admin guy here. It's not, remember, this is just a local system, but I can go over here and go to new, and go to new user, create a user, and call it John King, and I can just use his first name as his user account, username. Set the password never to expire. WP at LW0RD. WP at LW0RD. Go to next and go to finish. And now I've created a user. I can give the user some right. I can say he's a member of, and then I can go to advanced and drop down here, and then add this guy to administrator group. Click OK. Add him to more. I can even enter into enterprise. So if you know the name, the beginning of the letters of the user group that you're looking for, you can just enter and click check, and it's going to give you options. And I'm going to say enterprise admin. I'm going to click it. I can go ahead and say I have a schema, and I can go to check, and it's going to give me schema admin. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm just, in my case here, just doing it because I want to show you that I can create a user, and I've created a user over here. But now, because this guy is on the domain now, I can actually use this user account on the domain. I can come over here and I can say John, okay, and I can come over here and say enter my password, and you can see now I'm logged into Perkins now, logging onto the domain, and now the user account that I created on the domain controller here I was able to use it to log on here on the certificate authority, or the machine that I intend to use as my certificate authority. Don't forget that when I created a RAID on this machine, all I simply did was come to VM, go to settings, and I added a bunch of disks, small disk, 1 gig, just to demonstrate what I can do with my RAID. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to watch it again and do the same thing in your environment. Thank you.